Dominic Robinson, lead football analyst here at Warchant.com, is here to join us and make us smarter about what is happening for Tony White's defense. And Dominic, I'll start with this. You texted me as we were having an exchange this week that when you were watching Tony White, defensive coordinator's press conference on Sunday, you felt like you were living in a simulation. Why did you say that?
I did, man. It was almost surreal. So I had been texting Tony actually throughout the week, asking him for help. We played a perennial state champion, perennial power here in Arizona. That guys does a really good job on offense, and I just kind of asked him what his favorite things to do when you're facing the type of offense that we were seeing. And then watching his press conference was like watching myself explain to my defensive staff exactly what went wrong in our game as we lost a tough one too. We held them to 10-0 at halftime, and then only gave up 100 yards in the first half, and then the war of attrition got us. And so just listening to Tony, he talked a lot about first down, guys being slightly misaligned, being slightly late on assignments, and or just not having enough physicality at the contact point and allowing ball carriers to fall forward for 2nd and 6, 2nd and 4. And I literally said almost the words verbatim after our game, speaking to my guys and my staff. And so, hearing him say that was it was really strange, because it felt like he was taking the words right out of my mouth.
Let's take a look at the All-22 here that Dominic provides us to get smarter about what it is that happened that Friday night. And I know we've got a series of plays that will run off here.
The things that we're going to see in terms of first down are very similar to what we'll see, against Miami. Very similar offensive style, good quarterbacks that are accurate. I don't think this kid is or Carson Beck is as athletic as Chandler Morris is, but obviously a very good passer, very good player, veteran quarterback. All they're doing is running zone play here, and again, just enough to where the guys fall forward and you're in 2nd and 6, and that's exactly what you want. You're on schedule as an offense. So you got a little bit of a different approach here now. So you're going to try and go more aggressive. I believe Virginia's going tempo on this play, so they probably just got a first down. Florida State counters with a 6-man, really just a run pressure. With the condensed formation, all the gaps are pretty much taken up. And, essentially they almost just guess wrong with the pressure. It looks like they're sending overload to the right. The offense is left. And the ball carrier sees the cutback. He cuts back and he hits the B gap. Now, this could potentially be a misalignment or misassignment here where, this safety, which is Earl Little here, 0, is supposed to be down. So there's this safety here is probably, maybe he was supposed to add to the B gap here, the weak or the away B gap. And so right there is where you'd want him showing up, and then he ends up getting blocked by number 7, who is the number 1 receiver, out here in this condensed formation. So now you get a guy falling forward, a good physical offensive line. You can probably see it a little bit better from the tight right there. So here's, again, Earl Little is probably supposed to show up here in the B gap. They did a good job. And again, part of this is just guessing wrong, in terms of your pressure. And you're going to add this guy to the B, and he gets blocked, by number 7, just enough to where the ball carrier can fall forward. Now, this was the big one, and I'm going to just go ahead and go to the tight copy on this. So what I believe here is this to be a tight front, okay? And a tight front, or a penny front, they call it penny because there's 5 down and 1 linebacker. So the 1 linebacker is your penny. And the tight front is a 0 nose, head up the center, a 4-eye, which would be inside shade of the tackle, and then another 4-eye inside shade of the tackle. Now, as you can see, the left defensive end, offense's right, ends up outside of 78 here, and he is responsible for the B gap, which is where this ball spits. Now, he gets widened just a little bit at the point of contact, and I believe that part of that is the misalignment. I think he's a little bit too wide. You probably want him closer to in this gap. As you can see, the offense is left. This tackle is inside. He's kind of in the gap, which would allow him to control the guard when he tries to block out on him. He's not able to control him because of his leverage. He's not in a good leverage point. He gets widened just enough to where the ball spits. And then here you get dominant contact, which I heard Tony call dominant contact, which I loved. I love that term from Earl, but it doesn't wrap up and he doesn't move his feet. Ball carrier does a great job. I mean, with that collision, most guys go down. Earl contacts him in the B gap that was supposed to be closed, and he breaks the tackle and goes for a big explosive run and a touchdown here. And I do think that that's just a slight misalignment, or on his get off, he just has to do a good job of controlling 78 right there and not let 78 widen him, because as you see, you end up with two outside the ball. Okay, so this edge player is responsible for the C gap, or the gap outside of 68. And so he's going to be responsible for the B, and you want to collapse 78. So the term that I use is him, me, or my head. So I want to put 78. I want to either push him back into that gap. I'm going to cross his face and I'm going to get in that gap. Or right now he needs to take his eyes and switch them and put them in that gap. And you see, he kind of tries to do it, but his feet are moved so wide that now even him switching and getting his head back inside into the gap, it's not enough. And that's why he misses this tackle. It's an arm tackle, and that's exactly what Tony was talking about. Too many arm tackles, too much falling forward, not strong enough at the point of contact. And that's exactly what you get here, and you end up giving up a touchdown.
Okay, can I sort through football glossary here a little bit? Just a couple of terms that you're going through. So when you say
Sure.
he gets too wide, you're not talking about the width of the formation. You're talking about his base, his feet are too wide, or you're talking about he's aligned too far, like geographically outside? Which one?
So there's two things that could be wrong here. One, his alignment, he's getting too much of the tackle right now. So a 4-eye means that half of my body is in the gap and half of my body is on. So I should be his left shoulder. The defensive tackle's left shoulder should be on the 6.
Got it.
Of this tackle. So now when he gets off, he should be attacking the V of the neck of 78 from that alignment. So this guy can't block down on him, and this guy cannot reach him. And this is where I'm talking about where he gets width. That movement right there.
Got it.
Okay, so you'll see he gets off. 78 does a good job getting off on the ball, and right there, his feet move to his left. And when he does that, he can no longer collapse that gap, the gap inside of him.
Okay.
So he either needs to align tighter, or when he gets off, he has to do a better job of attacking the 8, which is the outside V of the neck of 78, right there.
Okay.
Because so that gap needs to be collapsed. So again, and that's where it comes to either either needs to be him, me, or my eyes. So right now, he either needs to put 78 in that gap right here. He needs to cross his face and get into that gap, or he needs to switch his eyes, which he knows. But right here, he moved his feet outside. So when he does switch his eyes, it's too late and he has no power. He doesn't have enough power to make this tackle.
Right.
Because of where his feet are. If he moved his feet to be right here, now when he switches his eyes, he's going to have enough. Half of his body's going to hit number 3, which is going to slow him down, which is going to make Earl's dominant contact be a lot more dominant.
Makes
So
sense.
now it's not a free run. It's slowed down by just that little bit of contact that we get from the defensive tackle right there, number 10.
So Tony White did lament, this is the last question I'll ask on this, but Tony White did lament misalignments and run fits. A lot of times when I hear run fits, I think linebackers, misalignments. I think about, obviously, it's just placement on the field. Can you sort through that about whose responsibility it is to be aligned? Is that about preparation during the week? Is it about maybe a linebacker sorting through and making sure that the line in front of him are in the right gaps? Like, where does that assignment, or the word blame is a fan's word, but like, where does the responsibility fall?
Yeah, it could be anywhere, to be honest, because especially in today's day and age, offenses go so fast that alignment basically comes down to, how quickly you can get to the space that you need to get to based off of their formation. And so when guys are going fast, a lot of times your feet are just 1 or 2 steps from where you're supposed to be. That's why Gus Malzahn plays with such great tempo, because I only need 1 step to gain an advantage as an offensive lineman, as we just saw on that last play. So when you're talking misalignments, a lot of times it's not necessarily someone's job to get you aligned. You get the call based off of the formation that they're in, and then you gotta align yourself.
Mm-hmm.
There are times where alignments could be, based off of a check that a linebacker is supposed to make. But especially, again, the game is so fast now that everybody has to sort of own their own pod, their own space in terms of their alignment. So like even just up here, like with this coverage, whatever coverage they're playing here, this corner needs to know what leverage he needs to play versus 2 detached if these receivers are in this split.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's no one's that's going to tell him where to stand. He needs to know based off of the route concepts that these guys run and the spacing that they have, and then whatever coverage you're playing, where do I need to stand? Where do I need to be inside leverage? Do I have help, or is my sideline the help? So that's so that question can't really be answered simply, because there's tons of different factors, most of which are what problems do the offense present to you, and then what are your answers? What are the tools that you have in order to combat what they're trying to do? So if he's going to stand way out here, I need to know I need to line inside, because when he goes out there, he's coming back in. And so there's not somebody that can tell me to do that in real time. I have to know that and know where to stand, and then know the things that he wants to do based off of his alignment. The reason why I'm able to, sort of break down, someone else's defense is rules, amongst defense are pretty universal. Now, everybody has slightly, different iterations, but in the end, there's only 11 pieces, and there's only so many places that you can go based off of there's 5 guys on a line, and then there's either 2 detached or 3 detached if you're playing in the secondary, and there's only so much space that they can go. So, we all sort of have, very similar rules, and then it's the offense's job to try to make us either break our rules or break them for us, based off of whatever, problems that they present. And that's essentially what, the modern game is just putting conflict players in conflict as much as possible. And the better players you have, the less conflict they have, because physically they can move to spaces that don't present conflict for them.
You talk about switching sides with your eyes and your head and stuff, like Ruben Bain for Miami, the number 4. Oh my Lord, what he can do.
Yeah. He's phenomenal. He's going to go top 10, this year for a reason. Okay. Again, just the point of attack right here. They go split zone, little split zone action. You can see the defensive right tackle, getting knocked off and double teamed. And then so now your end, who really does a good job squeezing and fitting inside. So this is where we're talking about. This is a decent run fit, but because the tackle gets so much push, now your end ends up going for a ride when he gets there. Now, that contact is happening at the line of scrimmage and maybe even slightly behind it. But now this guy's just going for a ride. He's got no legs, and we end up in, a 2nd and 6, which is favorable for the offense. Okay, so here's a good example of, you asked about run fits earlier and how the pieces fit together. Here is a situation where guys are doing a really good job in your run fits. Okay, this play is absolutely shut down at the point of attack where they wanted this ball to go. But we had one player right here, 28, who is accounting for a gap that's already accounted for. Okay, so you can see as the ball, they're trying to run wide zone here, and the gap that they're trying to hit, the B gap, strong side B gap, is accounted for. The ball is going to wind all the way back, and 28 is accounting for the B gap that is already closed off. So he should have been fitting right off of the edge of number 8 right here. And there should be your tackle. All right, because he is the cutback player. All right, so the corner star outside of him is in man coverage. So he's manning up. This guy right here is manning up that guy. And he ends up turning it back. So you always want to have an edge of the defense, and that's 28 should be right here as this ball cuts back. And boom is where your tackle should happen. There should be a vice tackle right here with 8 and 28. But because 28 tucked inside, went to go account for a gap that's already accounted for, there's no one to set that edge. We can look, it's a better look here from the tight. You can see B gap is shut down here by number 6. This second B gap as he cuts back is shut down. C gap is shut down. 28 should be falling back right off the edge, and he's not there. Now this back obviously makes a great cut right here, and this is exactly what Tony Hill is talking about. All right, because even the star right there, number 3, does a really good job, the nickel, of making that thing cut back. But when it does, there's no force there. It cuts back, falls forward, and again, 2nd and 6. That's going to be a problem, and just really look out for that in the Miami game. On first down, are we in 2nd and 8, 2nd and 9s, making Carson Beck beat you with his arm? Because if they can get in 2nd and 4, 2nd and 6s, then the whole playbook is open. And, when you only need 3 yards on the next 2 downs to get you into a first down, it makes football a lot easier